Hello guys, today dear God, I pray that you give me the words to say. I pray that you reach into my heart to pour out the meaning of the story so that not only I can understand it more, that everyone else could understand it, that it could reach them in ways that they never thought that they could be reached. That even the simplest and smallest of stories carry the greatest power. I thank you and I love you, and I pray. Amen. Alright guys, today I'm going to talk to y'all about David and Goliath. Recently, I haven't been studying my Bible as much, going to church as I should have been, which it's not all about going to church, it's about your relationship with God. And mine hasn't been as strong as I'd have liked it to be. So I'm trying to come at it a different angle to where it's not as traditional as we've always grown up to have. So I hope y'all enjoy this, and I hope it speaks to you in ways that I can't explain. Well, today we're going to be in 1 Samuel 17. We're going to be talking about David and Goliath. So the setting for this entire battle, I guess you could say, is in between Sok and Azekah. This is between the Philistines and the Israelites. The Philistines, they're in the Ephes Daimim, all right, and they were both camped in the valley of Elah, E-L-A-H. Okay, so back in that day, you know, they didn't have guns, they didn't have anything like that. They had bows, spears, swords, maybe even chariots. I don't know if they had chariots at this time, but that's some of the things that they used. The way that this battlefield was set up was we had mountains on this side, and you had mountains on this side, and then you had your valley in the middle. Back in that day, war strategy and advantage was everything. If you had the right field position, if you had the right battle positions, you put your men up here, high ground usually always won. Because when you're fighting uphill, you're trying to go uphill. Not only are you fighting, but you're fighting just to walk and to stay walking. So the people uphill, they have such a great advantage over you. So the reason that there wasn't too much going on is because these two armies are here on the mountainsides looking at each other, waiting. Okay, I'm not going down first, so let's just wait. They're waiting, or as the armies have met, they're standing on these mountainsides and they're looking at each other. This man, Goliath, from the Philistines, he's from Gath, he's a champion. Goliath steps out from the Philistine army and he challenges Israel. Goliath, just to kind of put you in perspective to how Goliath looked, his height was 6 cubits and a span. His bronze helmet, he had a bronze helmet, a coat of mail, he had bronze leg armor, a javelin strapped to his back, and a spear. He also had a sword on his side. 6 cubits and a span, that equals up to 9 foot 6 inches. So this man was 9 foot tall and 6 inches. His coat of mail weighed 5,000 shekels, and that equals out to about 125, 126 pounds. And that's just like this shirt that I have on, that would be like a coat of mail, but, you know, armor. His javelin, just the spearhead, weighed 15 pounds, or 600 shekels. Just to put in perspective kind of like what his spear size would be, say we're about 5 to 6 foot, and our spears are, 6 foot long, 7 foot long. So Goliath being, 9 foot 6, his spear was probably anywhere from, 15, 16, 17 foot long with this 15 pound spearhead on the end of it. Now I couldn't carry that, like Israelites on the mountainside. And he says, "Why have you come out to line up for battles? Am I not a Philistine, and you the servants of Israel? Choose any man, let him come down to me. If he was able to kill me, we will be your servants. And if I'm able to kill him, you will be our servants." Now, the reason Goliath is doing this is because they're trying to end the battle, swiftly without either army being, completely devastated. So he steps out and he said, I'm the champion of my Philistines. Who will come out, the army of God, and fight me? Just one person. And he said, whoever wins the battle. So Goliath defied the armies of God. I defy the armies of Israel. On this day, give me a man that I may fight. But yet no man would come out. Now, in this army of Israel, there was 3 sons that were fighting. And to these sons, their father was Jesse. Now, these 3 sons also had brothers. In total, there was 8 brothers, okay? Their youngest brother went by the name of David. And listen to this. Jesse instructed David to take an ephah of dried grain and 10 loaves and run to his brother's camp. He said, carry these 10 cheeses to the captain of their 1,000 and see how your brothers are and see how they're faring, and then bring back the news. So David rose early and gathered his things, and he left his sheep, because he was a sheep herder. He didn't do anything besides, sit at the house, make sure, not at the house, but, in the fields, and he made sure, the sheep stayed in the flock. He watched everything, for the family, because he was young. He was the youngest son. So he wasn't, given, the authority to do, whatever he wanted to do. So David rose early and gathered his things, and he comes up on the battlefield as the Philistines are lining up and as the Israelites are lining up on each battlefield, and as they're getting ready to watch Goliath come out and say his speech. So David runs to his brothers, and Goliath steps out. I defy the armies of Israel. On this day, give me a man that we may fight. So the men of Israel, they hear this and they cower, saying, have you seen this man who has come up? Saying this to David. Surely he's come up to defy Israel. And it will be made that whoever kills this man will be enriched. They will be given many riches. The king, Saul, he will give them his daughter. And that the house that he takes over, his father's house, he will have to pay no taxes on it. And David spoke to these men, saying, what do you mean, what shall be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? Now Eliab, this is David's oldest brother. Eliab heard this and was angered, saying, why did you come here? Who did you leave the sheep with? Like, what are you doing here? Why do you think that you can just come here and be at this battle? I know your pride and insolence in your heart to just see this battle. And David said to him, what have I done? Is there not a cause? David looks around to the other soldiers. Is there not a cause? Why are we just sitting here watching this man defy our God, our armies? Is there not a cause? All the men gave David the same answer. For, whoever destroys this man, whoever defeats this man shall be given riches. He's too big, we're scared, we can't do anything. Well, David, walking around this army asking, is there not a cause? This raised, some questions. People were asking, who is this boy? Anyways, word got back to Saul, the king. So King Saul, he ordered that David, this young boy, be brought to him to, because he was the only one in this Israel army speaking courage. Everybody else was dismayed by this giant except for David. So they bring David to Saul. And David tells Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight. So David's telling Saul, I will go and fight. Don't let anyone be dismayed. Saul looks at David and he scoffs and he says, but you are just a youth. You are a young boy. And this man, Goliath, he has been made a man of war from his youth. He has grown. But David pleads with him. David told Saul, for I used to keep my father's sheep. A lion and bear would come against them and take a lamb. I would go after it, and I would strike it to deliver the lamb from his mouth. When it rose against me, I caught it by his beard, and struck it, and killed it. For your servant has killed lion and bear, and this Philistine will be just like one. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. So you can see here that David, he doesn't see this giant man in front of him. He doesn't see that. All he sees is God behind him, or God in front of him, working through him. David knows that God will give him the power to defeat anything that's in front of it, if it be his will. So Saul says to David, "Go and let the Lord be with you." But before David goes out, Saul brings him to his tent and he loads him up. He puts a helmet on his head. He puts chainmail on his stomach and on his chest, over his shoulders. He puts sword in hand, armor on his legs, and he tries to send him out there. David picks his sword up and tries to walk, but he can't walk. He can't even move, because that's not who he is. That's not what he's always done. That's not how he's trained. He can't be made into some warrior, okay? So David looks at Saul and he says, "I can't wear this, for I can't move. I can't fight." So he takes all this armor off, takes everything off, and he goes and he grabs his staff. And he goes and he grabs his sling, and he grabs 5 smooth stones from a river. Now I kind of made like a sling. I'll kind of show you what it looked like. Okay, so here's a sling. You make a loop on one end. You can run your middle finger through it. You make a tie knot on the other end. You grab it right here. And it's just 2 strings with a pouch on the end. You have a pouch here. And what you do is you swing it, just like this. And when you find your target, you're going to drop this in, but you have one loop around your finger so it stays attached. So you have these rocks here, these smooth river stones, and he would load them into the pouch. I'll show you what it looks like. In a little bit I'll show you how it works. So David goes and he gets these 5 stones, 5 smooth stones from the river, and he steps up in front of this Philistine, in front of Goliath. When David drew near to Goliath, Goliath shouted, "Am I a dog?" David said, "You come at me with sword, with spear, and with the javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of the hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. Whom you have defied on this day, the Lord will deliver you unto my hand, and I will strike you. Then take your head from you, and this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistine to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the field. For all of the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. Then all this assembly will know that the Lord does not save with the sword and the spear. For a battle is the Lord's, and he will deliver you unto our hands." Saying this, I'm sure struck fear into Goliath. Not only David being a young boy, but standing up to him and straight up telling Goliath that I'm going to stomp you into the ground, and it's going to happen right here and right now. So David reached into his pack and he pulled out one of his stones, and he put it into his sling, and he looks Goliath right in his eyes. He swings the sling around and he loosens it. He sends it straight in to Goliath's forehead. Now the stone sank into the middle of Goliath's forehead and toppled him to the ground. Upon seeing this, David runs up to Goliath's side. He draws his sword. Goliath's sword cuts his head off in front of all these armies to see. The whole army, the whole Philistine army, the whole Israelite army. They watched this young boy go up in front of their giant Philistine, their giant Goliath, and put him to the ground. The main thing you could get from this is that the armies of Israel, they already knew they were God's people. and they knew that they were protected by God. But when they saw this giant come out in front of them, they got scared. They no longer knew where they came from. They no longer knew their backbone, who they were. All they saw was what was in front of them, and all they thought about was, if I could beat him, then I could be rich. I could get the king's daughter, or I could not pay taxes on my houses anymore. And that's all they thought about, and it clouded their mind. When David came out there, he wasn't thinking about that. All that he knew and all that he thought was that there's this man, and he's defying my God, my people's God. He's standing and blatantly shouting at us, telling us that we are small and that we can't do it. He said, I will not stand for that. I know that my God is greater, and I know that we are strong, and that we are built up, and I know that we can defeat them. So he goes, and he gets some stones, and he slays this giant. Now this can also go over into your life, into all the giants that you have in your life. Not, huge giants in front of you, but standing up to people or talking about God. And this has been something that's, been on my heart for a while, that I'm not standing up to my giants. And I want that to change, because I don't want that to be who I am. I want everyone to remember me and everyone to know that I profess the name of God, and that I wanted to defeat my giants, and I want other people to defeat their giants. And we don't all know how to defeat our giants, and sometimes we don't even know what our giants are. But that's what the Bible's here for, and that's what we're here for, and other Christians and other fellow people, to help us in our lives, to help us grow, and to help us to be able to conquer our giants, and to be able to move on to the next, and to be able to help other people. So if you didn't get anything from this, just know that I want you to conquer your giants, and that I'm trying to conquer mine. Okay, so here's the sling. I kind of show y'all how to use it. I had to get some smaller rocks because I made my pocket here too small. So every time I would try to sling it around, it would just throw it out. So here we go. You kind of put your finger through the middle. Right there on the middle finger. Load your rock. Kind of get it tucked down there in that pocket. So I'm going to go for one swing, and I'm going to release. I'm going to go over here, alright? Okay, it went straight into the ground. So you gotta make sure that you are releasing your open hand here kind of high, so that you can kind of let it go. So I've never swung one of these. I just kind of watched the video how to make one. Hey, back up, back up. Alright. Oh, it went right under the camera. Alright, one more. Ooh, that one went far.